so this is going to be a follow-up lesson from the last one that we built a schedule on Excel. So this is a schedule. So the nice thing about doing schedules on Excel, it's easy to build them, but once you update things, which you update all the time, it's a little more difficult, right? So maybe we start off with that. So let's say 3 days in, you have a delay and everything has to push. You have to come in, grab everything, right? Shift it over and double check it and just check dates, right? And then check the weekends and all that good stuff. So it's easy, but it's a little harder to update. So this is where P6 comes in. So P6, we created a project. There's nothing on it right now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up, if you remember in our Excel file, we had two different areas, one for concrete work at new baler pad and the other one lighting work, right? So we have two different sections essentially. So we're going to do that on P6. So put this on the side. So we go to project WBS. And this is kind of WBS is work breakdown structure. It's how you organize a schedule. So you right click, you add, boom, it creates a new one. And I'm going to copy from the Excel file. Concrete work at new baler pad. I'm going to create another one. All right, so I created another one. I'll copy the text from the second section, pasting it. So now we have the two sections. All right, so we go back to activities. You click on the little plus here. We have the two sections, which are essentially resembling the section and this guy. So now I'm literally just going to grab, start copying activity by activity down. So on concrete, right click, add. You see how now there's a plus? Press plus, so we have an activity. So there's different ways of adding activities. You can just click, right click, add, that adds. You can go to file, edit, add, that adds. You can also on your keyboard press insert. So if you press insert on your keyboard, this comes up. You press finish. Oh, there it is. Yep. So keyboard, just click on one of them, insert, and it brings up a new activity. So I'm gonna just add a bunch of activities right now. I like the keyboard because it's faster. So I'm just pressing insert, enter, insert, enter, insert, enter. So we have a bunch of activities and we have this guy. So what I'm gonna do, just to show everything on the screen, I'll pull up both of them. And this is where even updating this schedule, let's say for whatever reason, one of these durations is shorter, you have to grab them, all the bars and shift them, right? So this is gonna be a lot easier on P6. So I'm gonna click on the first one, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, make it a little bit smaller. And I'm just going down the list. All right, so I'm running out of activities. I'll add a few more. All right, so we're on the last activity. Pasted it. Okay, so we got this first section all in, and if you notice, if I go back, I'll scroll this guy. So every time you add an activity, the first column is an activity ID. That's just every activity needs to have kind of an identification number. That's all it is. You can customize it. If, for your first few times, just let it be. And usually I have duration and remaining duration. I already have my schedule set up to update it. So right now, if you look, all the activities are all June 16th through June 22nd. They're all defaulted to 5 days. And you can see them here, right? So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to plug in the duration. So remove, here, I'll make this smaller again. Remove soil and asphalt. It's 2 days. You just go here, 2. You know what? Before I do that, all right. So before we do the durations, I'll do the ties. Okay. So the first activity is remove asphalt, and what the end of that is the start of grading, right? So if you look here, remove asphalt. There's multiple ways of tying things. So if you go to relationships, so predecessor is the activity that happens before. Successor is the activity that happens after it. So the activity that happens after removal of asphalt is grading, right? So we're going to add a successor. It happens after assign, and we're going to find grading. So I double click it, close it. So now it has a successor. So now you can go to the activity grading. What's the successor to grading? Drill light pole footings, right? So I go to assign, drill light pole footings. Okay, so that's one way to tie them. The other way is if you hover your mouse, you see there's an arrow, and if I hover close to the end of grading, it turns into what it's called a pitchfork. If I click and hold, now I'm saying the end of grading is going to be the start of drill light pole footing, so I let it go here. And it just added oh, you know what? I already had it, so let me remove it. So the end of drill light pole footings is going to be the start of form light pole footings. So I let it go. So if you go to form light pole footings, the predecessor is drill. So now it's kind of, so what's the successor for form light pole footings? What happens after? After form, you go to rebar. So after form, I click the pitchfork and I let it go at the front of rebar. Okay, so that's a second way of doing ties. The other way to do it is if all of these are tied, if I already put them in order, and you already know that inspections and then it's pour and then it's cure, which we know it is because we built it this way. Right. I can select the first activity and then I'm gonna go to the last activity, handrails, and I right click anywhere and I go to link activities. So it's automatically gonna do all those ties for all of them already, right? And we can check it. So if I click on strip and clean, it already see cure happens before predecessor and form and curb happens after, right? So and you can go activity by activity and look, you can see all the successors and predecessors are all tied. So the activity IDs are still the same. That never changed. Okay. Yeah. So now, so nothing happened. You see all these bars are still stacked. But if you may wonder, hey, why isn't grading happening, or why isn't drill light pole fears shifting to the right? So if I can zoom in here, I hold my magnifying glass and I click and hold and it kind of zooms and makes the bars bigger. So you can see everything's still happening on the same 5 days. And that's because even though we made all these changes, P6 won't reflect them until you press F5 or you schedule it here. You can actually, or F9. So you see the schedule? It hasn't computed all this logic that we just did. But if we click here, we click there, this comes up and it says, hey, you're gonna run your schedule based on June 16th. And we press schedule. Watch what happens. Boom. It already did the bars, right? And now we can't see them all. It's because I zoomed in too much. But if I go back to my magnifying glass and scroll this way, it zooms it out. So does that look familiar? Right? That's the same bar. It's getting closer now, right? And you can see I had an extra activity just kind of floating. Remember I created too many? I'm gonna click on it, press delete. This comes up. You sure you want to delete it? Yes. So now it's really resembling this schedule. So the next step is let's change the durations of each of the activities, right? So remove soil and asphalt. That was, let's get this over, 2 days. Grading, 1 day. So I'm gonna just go down the line, right? So 1, drill light pole, 1, form light pole, 1, rebar, 3, 2, inspections, 4, cure, 7 days. Perfect, 7 days. Okay, strip and clean, 1 day. Form curb walkway, 4, rebar, electrical rough, inspection, 4, strip and clean, 2, handrails. Oh, actually here, let's go. 2 days, perfect. Okay, no, I did the wrong 2. Did 2 on the side. Okay, so again, it looks weird right now. What do you think we need to do? We have to press this guy here, or F9 on your keyboard. So F9, this comes up. So look at the bars, how they're all, now there's all these weird gaps, right? That's we haven't scheduled it yet. So we schedule, see? Now it's starting to look even more like this guy, right? So we can check, right? So right now it's ending on July 29th. This one is ending on July 9th, right? So there's a gap. We did something wrong, right? And I already know what we did wrong. You see this cure activity? That should be, we tied the cure to strip and clean. Because remember we did the automatic link, so we need to go break it, right? So you see cure ends on July 8th, and then strip and clean happened. But in reality, we're going to strip and clean the next day, right? So we need to break the tie. So we go to cure, and the successor was strip and clean. We're going to remove that. That was a mistake, so remove it. So now we need to add, uh, every activity should have a predecessor and a successor, except the first activity and the last. So strip and clean, what drives strip and clean? Here, it's pouring. So the day after we pour, we can strip and clean, right? So we have multiple ways. I can either assign it here, or I can just go to my pour and tie it to strip and clean here. Okay, let me F9 it. This comes up, schedule. Okay, so now it's July 20th. Oh, see, good eye. So, so the difference is, remember, we put the schedule back on June 7th. We're doing this schedule and P6 defaulted on today's date. So today is the 16th. So we need to revert this schedule back, right? So the way you do it is when you press F9, it tells you what the data date is. So we need to click it. Oh, click this and bring it back to match what we did on Excel. So it's going to be June 7th. Good catch, Andrew. So we schedule it. Pause it. So it gave us an error message. So the error message is saying, hey, your data date can't be before before today's date, right? So we try to do the 7th, we go to schedule, it gives us this error message. So the way to fix it is we're going to go back to the projects, click it here. And if you go to date, see the plan start was June 16th. We change it here to June 7th. Okay, and the data date, June 7th. Now we go back to the activities and we do it again. We do F9 again. So now that's June 7th, and the last day is July 9th. What was our end date here? So July 9th. So we essentially rebuilt this schedule now on P6, right? The nice thing about P6 is, let me take this. So I'm gonna take off this spotlight here, just for other things. So now it matches. The nice thing about this is, remember on Excel, the moment something changes and you update it, you have to do a lot of manual work and you can make a lot of mistakes. Here, let's say rebar happened to be 20 days now, right? You put that in, and the moment you press F9, schedule it, it does that for you. It shifts everything for you. So you don't have to do that manual thing, right? So it's a lot more powerful, and in the long run, it's going to save you time. So we'll bring that back to 2 days. So, and then F9. Go. All right, so we essentially rebuilt that first section. We'll do the next section down. So we're gonna lighting work. I can kind of mess with this. Like I can, if I want to see more activities, I can bring it down, right? And you see a little bit less of the successors and predecessors. So then you have this section. Again, different ways to insert activities. I'm gonna right click, add. And look, it actually tells you if you right click, see add, and then it also says insert. That's the shortcut on your keyboard. Just like here on the schedule here, you see how it says F9? So that's F9 on your keyboard. You can go, yeah, keyboard's always quicker. So I like the keyboard. So here, I'm gonna just go insert, enter, insert, enter. So normally when I build schedules, I usually start off with this. I'll just insert a bunch of activities. And I try to put them in the order that they're gonna be built. All right, so layout. All right, we're gonna do the last activity. All right, so we got them all. So this is where, I don't know, on the first section, I started changing the durations. The problem is the moment you start changing durations, it reorganizes the activities, right? So we want to keep them in this order because we already know that that's the right order, the logical order, right? So I'm gonna click on the first one, shift, click on the last one. It highlights them all in blue, right click, link activities, and nothing's happening. It's linking the activities. And we can double check. If I just click on any of the activities, look, they already have a predecessor and successor now, right? Except the first and the last one. So the first one doesn't have a predecessor, but it does have and then the last one will not have a successor, right? So there's always, the last activities usually don't have a successor and the first activity won't have a predecessor. So in this case, so nothing's happened. It still looks like everything's stacked. So I'm gonna do F9 at least to see that it, this is called cascading. So when things kind of stack up like this, kind of like a stair, it's called a cascade. So that's actually a good way to check schedules. If you see that it's not cascading, like right here, you can see something's weird. Something is weird, but here we have a reason, right? So normally you want to see cascades unless there's a reason for it not to cascade. Um, and look, right now you're going to question like, well, there is a gap right there. You see the gap? What do you think that gap is? No, so remember these are weekends. right? So every one of these gaps is a weekend, and you can see them up here too. It's just a little harder to see, but this is the weekend gaps that you're not seeing, right? So now after we did that, we're gonna come back and just adjust the durations. So minimize it. All right. Layout, 1 day, 3. All right. So now we have that. F9 it again. Good. Remember, we had a tie. The end of cure was the installation of light poles, right? So we need to make that tie. So we grab the end of cure and we find the installation of light poles here. So we do that tie, F9 it again. Let's see if that changes anything. So right now light poles are, it was saying we were doing them on June 28th. If we F9 it and update it, see it shifted 1 day, right? July, so everything's done on July 7th. What do we have here? Yep, July 7th. So we're matching, right? So everything's matching. So now this is now that it's on P6, it's a lot easier, right? The moment you change something, you just press F9 and it does the calculation for you. Let's say in grading we broke a conduit and we had to fix something, right? So how would we do it? We just have, let's say we wanted to add an activity. You press insert. It's going to add activity at the top and just put relocate conduit during grading, right? Oh, shit. So right now it's free floating, it's 5 days, and we already know it took 2 days. When did it happen? After grading, right? So after grading, we find the end of grading, pitchfork. We're going to take it behind, relocate, conduit, F9. See now, so it's if you notice, and grading finishes on June 9th. We relocated on the June 10th. So a lot of people, this is where Excel is simple because let's say this activity you need it to be up here. You can just copy, insert, copy this guy, put it up here. And you can drag stuff and manually do things, right? On P6, you can't do that. The only way to manually move the bars, it's through the relationships, right? So remember, this relocate activity was out here, but the moment we tied it to grading, it pushed it out. Now, we couldn't drill the light pole footings until we relocated that conduit, right? So I need to tie the finish of relocating that conduit. Essentially here, let me zoom in. You see how this little bar for drill pole, light posts? Let's say I wanted this bar to be in front of the green bar because that was the logic, right? I had to relocate the conduit, then I had to drill. I take this to drill to the back end, F9, and keep an eye on that drill light pole footing. It's going to shift to the right of the green bar, which now it turned red, right? So remember the drill light pole is out here now. It's to the right of this green bar. It used to be green. So red means that it's the longest path in the job. So if your whole job, the worst or the latest activity, this is the path. So you can see how even if this section takes a little bit, you can see this section is ending on July 9th. This section is ending on July 13th. It's pretty much saying, look, even if these dates slipped by a few days, this is still the worst date, the latest date. And everything in red is part of that path to get to that latest date. So if you see red, that means it's probably important. It's critical, right? And here, I can show you, let's say I wanted to just cheat it and lay out, I'm gonna just plug in 10 days, right? And I F9, Look at the red bars at the top. They're going to go away, and now this bottom section is going to turn red. You see that? Because now this is longer. This is July 19th versus still this is July 13th here, right? So it's a lot more, it's a lot smarter, right, than running Excel. And it just gives you a lot more information. So I'll take that back. All right, so that's it. I mean, so essentially we rebuilt that Excel schedule.